The laser scalpel trembled in Dr. Kira Voss's grip as she made the first incision. Into the crystalline data core, 3 million years of hegemony history lay dormant within the artifact, waiting to whisper secrets that could reshape the galaxy or get her executed for treason. Steady, Kira. Her research partner, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, monitored the bioscanners from across the sterile laboratory. The Overlord security algorithms are still active. One wrong move and the core will self-destruct. Kira's fingers moved with surgical precision, her enhanced neural implants calculating probabilities faster than conscious thought. The Veltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 12 millennia. Their iron grip maintained through a simple narrative: humanity was a plague species, too violent and chaotic to be trusted with advanced technology. Only the enlightened Veltharians could guide the lesser races toward true civilization. She'd believed that story once. Every human did. It was carved into their education matrices, embedded in their cultural programming, whispered in their children's bedtime stories. Humans were the monsters who had nearly destroyed themselves in nuclear fire. The Veltharians were their saviors. But the archaeological site on Kepler for to be told a different story. Got it. Kira breathed as the data core's outer shell peeled away like synthetic skin. Inside, quantum encrypted information streams pulsed with alien light, beginning historical data extraction. The first files were mundane trade agreements, population censuses, resource allocation reports from the early days of human Veltharian contact, standard colonial documentation that matched the official records. But as Kira dug deeper, guided by inconsistencies in the metadata, she found something else. Battle reports, casualty figures, strategic assessments. Yuki, she whispered, her face pale in the blue glow of the holographic display. Look at this. The data streams coalesced into tactical maps showing Earth's solar system 3 millennia ago. But these weren't the sanitized historical records taught in schools. These were Veltharian military files, encrypted and classified at the highest levels. Human resistance proved unexpectedly effective. Yuki read aloud from the translated text. Fleet Admiral Korthak's Third Armada suffered 6 to 7% casualties in the initial assault along Luna Base. Recommend immediate deployment of orbital bombardment platforms to eliminate defensive installations. Kira's hands shook as she pulled up more files. Images of human Starship Sleek, deadly vessels that bore no resemblance to the crude chemical rockets described in the history books. Weapon specifications for plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Engineering schematics for faster-than-light drives that were supposedly beyond human comprehension. This is impossible, Yuki breathed. According to official history, humans didn't even have orbital habitats when the Veltharians arrived. We were supposed to be a pre-spaceflight civilization. Keep reading, Kira said grimly. The files revealed the truth in stark, brutal detail. Humanity hadn't been saved by the Veltharians. They'd been conquered, a spacefaring civilization with colonies spanning dozens of star systems, reduced to servitude through a combination of military force and systematic cultural reprogramming. Phase 3 of the pacification protocol involves memory adjustment of surviving human populations. Kira read from a high command briefing. All records of pre-contact technological achievements must be eliminated. The humans must believe they were primitive when we arrived, grateful for our guidance. This narrative will be maintained through genetic-level neural conditioning of subsequent generations. The laboratory's air recycling system hummed in the silence that followed. Both women stared at the damning evidence floating before them. Understanding the magnitude of what they'd uncovered, Kira, Yuki said slowly, if this is real, if this is true, then everything we've been taught about human history is a lie. It's real. Kira's voice was steady now, hardened by the weight of revelation. The quantum encryption signatures are authentic. These are genuine Veltharian military records. But why? Why go to such lengths to hide human capabilities? Kira pulled up another file, this one bearing the personal seal of Supreme Overlord Threnix himself. The answer lay in a single, chilling paragraph. The human species possesses an innate capacity for technological innovation and tactical adaptation that exceeds even our own. In open conflict, they proved capable of matching our military might, despite significant disadvantage in numbers and resources. The only way to ensure permanent Veltharian dominance is to convince them they are incapable of such achievements. Fear of human potential must be replaced with human self-doubt. They're afraid of us, Yuki whispered. They've always been afraid of us. A soft chime echoed through the laboratory. Both women froze as the security system's automated voice filled the room. Warning: unauthorized access to classified historical archives detected. Security personnel have been notified. Kira's enhanced reflexes kicked in. She yanked the data core from its housing and shoved it into a portable containment unit. We have to go now. Where? Yuki was already erasing their work logs, her fingers flying across the terminal interfaces. The moment we leave this facility, we're dead. The hegemony doesn't tolerate heretical research. There's someone we need to find, Kira said, sealing the containment unit. Someone who might be able to help us get this information to the right people. The laboratory's blast doors began cycling as security forces approached, but Kira Voss was no longer just a historian. She was humanity's memory, finally awakened from 3,000 years of imposed amnesia, and she was very, very angry. The transport shuttle Meridian's edge bucked through atmospheric turbulence as it descended toward the industrial moon of Proxima Tertius in the cargo hold. Kira clutched the data core's containment unit while Yuki monitored encrypted communication channels for signs of pursuit. Hegemony security forces are mobilizing across 6 sectors, Yuki reported, her voice tight with strain. They're not just looking for us, they're conducting full planetary lockdowns. Whatever we found, they really don't want it getting out. Kira stared out the viewport at the sprawling mining complexes below. Millions of humans labored in those facilities, extracting rare minerals to fuel the Veltharian war machine. They believed they were contributing to galactic civilization. They had no idea they were building the chains of their own enslavement. There, she said, pointing to a nondescript shipping facility on the moon's dark side. That's where we'll find Commodore Kane. Former Commodore Marcus Kane, to be precise, dishonorably discharged from the Hegemony Navy for excessive aggression during a minor border skirmish. Kane now ran a small shipping operation that asked no questions about cargo manifests. More importantly, he commanded a small but loyal crew of fellow military outcasts who shared his skepticism about Veltharian benevolence. The shuttle touched down on the facility's landing pad with a barely controlled crash. As the engines wound down, Kira could see armed figures emerging from the shadows of the loading bays. Kane's people were cautious by necessity, Dr. Voss. Kane's gravelly voice crackled through the shuttle's communication system. You're either very brave or very stupid to come here. Half the sector is looking for you. I'd have something you need to see, Marcus, Kira replied, gathering her equipment. Something that changes everything. The cargo bay doors cycled open, revealing Kane himself, a weathered man in his 50s with cybernetic implants replacing his left eye and right arm. Battle scars from his military service marked his face, and his remaining natural eye held the hard glint of someone who'd seen too much war. Inside, he ordered, gesturing toward the facility. Fast. My sensors are picking up hegemony patrol ships on the system's edge. They moved quickly through the facility's corridors, past stacks of shipping containers and maintenance equipment. Kane's crew, a mix of human and alien refugees who found sanctuary in the galactic underworld, watched with professional wariness as the group passed. Talk, Kane said once they reached his private office. What's so important that you brought the entire hegemony down on our heads? Kira activated the data core's holographic projector. The office filled with the ghostly light of ancient battle maps, casualty reports, and tactical assessments. Kane's expression shifted from annoyance to shock as he recognized the significance of what he was seeing. Holy shit, he breathed, leaning forward to examine the tactical data. These are real Veltharian military files. How did you? It doesn't matter how, Kira interrupted. What matters is what they reveal. Marcus, we were never the primitives they claimed we were. Humanity fought them. We nearly won. Kane's cybernetic outward as it focused on specific data points. His military training allowed him to interpret the battle reports with frightening clarity. Luna Base, he muttered. They lost 2/3 of their assault fleet trying to take Luna Base. And here the Battle of Titan. The humans held out for 3 months against overwhelming odds. Look at the weapon specifications, Yuki added, highlighting technical schematics. Human plasma cannons with twice the efficiency of current Veltharian designs. FTL drives that could outrun anything in their fleet. Kane stood slowly, his organic hand clenched into a fist. They didn't save us. They conquered us. Then they made us forget we were ever capable of fighting back. That's not the worst part, Kira said grimly. She pulled up the neural conditioning protocols, the systematic brainwashing that had been applied to entire populations. They didn't just defeat us militarily, they rewrote our genetic memory, made us believe we were grateful for our subjugation, and alarm klaxons suddenly shrieked through the facility. Kane's second in command, a scarred woman named Lieutenant Reeves, burst through the office door. "Boss, we've got company," she reported. "Veltharian battlecruiser Dominions will just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding permission to board and search the facility." Kane's expression hardened. "How long do we have?" 5 minutes, maybe less. They're already launching boarding pods." Kira felt her stomach clench. The Dominion's will was a hegemony. Capital ship, equipped with enough firepower to reduce the entire facility to radioactive slag. Its commander, Fleet Admiral Varix, was known throughout the galaxy for his ruthless efficiency in suppressing dissent. "We can't run," Kane said, his tactical mind already working through the possibilities. "That battlecruiser will vaporize us the moment we lift off." "That we fight," Kira said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. Kane laughed bitterly. "With what? I've got to light freighters and a handful of small arms. They've got a ship that could crack a moon. We've got something else," Kira replied, gesturing to the data core. "We've got the truth, and according to these files, the truth is that humans are a lot more dangerous than the Veltharians want anyone to believe." The facility shuddered as the first boarding pod slammed into its hull. Through the office's reinforced windows, they could see Veltharian shock troops in powered armor cutting through the outer airlocks with plasma torches. King grabbed a pulse rifle from his weapon rack and tossed another to Kira. "You know how to use this?" "I'm about to learn," she replied, checking the weapon's charge indicator. The first Veltharian soldiers breached the main corridor with practiced efficiency. Their armor gleamed silver in the facility's harsh lighting, and their weapons hummed with lethal energy. They moved in perfect formation, veterans of countless pacification campaigns. But they weren't prepared for the fury of humans who had just learned they'd been lied to. For 3,000 years, Kane's first shot caught the lead trooper center mass, his pulse rifles beam punching through advanced armor plating like tissue paper. The Veltharian stumbled backward, his weapon clattering to the floor as he collapsed. "Impossible." The squad leader hissed an accented standard. "Human weapons cannot penetrate." His words ended in a strangled gasp as Yuki's shot took him in the throat. The remaining troopers scattered for cover, their tactical doctrine suddenly inadequate against enemies who fought with desperate courage instead of resigned compliance. The battle was brutal and brief. Kane's crew, outnumbered 3-1, fought with the fury of people who had nothing left to lose. They used their knowledge of the facility's layout to devastating effect, turning maintenance corridors into killing fields and storage rooms into fortified positions. But they couldn't hold forever. More boarding pods were landing, and the Veltharian soldiers were regrouping for a coordinated assault. "We need to get that data off this rock," Kane shouted over the sound of plasma fire. "If we die here, the truth dies with us." Kira looked at the data core, then at the faces of the humans fighting around her. For 3 millennia, her species had been sheep, grateful for the protection of their wolf shepherds. But sheep who remembered they were once wolves were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. "I have an idea," she said, her historian's mind, connecting disparate facts into a pattern of possibility. "But it's going to require us to do something very stupid." King grinned as another Veltharian trooper fell to his rifle fire. "Stupid is what humans do best." The Dominions will hung in space like a metallic predator, its hull bristling with weapons designed to pacify entire star systems. On the bridge, Fleet Admiral Varix studied tactical displays with the cold precision that had earned him command of the hegemony's most feared battle group. "Status report," he commanded, his chitinous fingers clicking against the command console. "Boarding teams have secured 70% of the facility," reported his tactical officer. "However, they're encountering unexpected resistance. Human forces are using weapons that exceed their technological parameters." Varix's compound eyes narrowed. The humans should have surrendered immediately upon seeing Veltharian battle armor. For 3,000 years, that sight had been enough to end any rebellion before it could begin. Yet the tactical feeds showed human defenders fighting with a ferocity that belonged to the old stories, the nightmares that had haunted Veltharian military academies. For millennia, "Show me the weapon analysis," he ordered. The holographic display revealed pulse rifle schematics that made Varix's Carapace shiver with recognition. The energy output patterns, the focusing crystal arrangements, the harmonic resonance frequencies, they were all wrong. These weren't the crude weapons that humans were supposed to possess. These were the weapons that had once carved through Veltharian fleets like fire through ice. Impossible, Varix whispered. The memory conditioning was absolute. Humans cannot. Remember, Admiral, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the facility. It's on an open channel. Display it. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human female with determined eyes and blood on her research coat. Behind her, the sounds of battle echoed through smoke-filled corridors. I am Dr. Kira Voss, she said, her voice carrying across the void between them. I have information that concerns every sentient being in this galaxy. Information that your empire has spent 3 millennia trying to suppress. Varix leaned forward in his command chair. Dr. Voss, you will surrender immediately and submit to neural reconditioning. Your research has been classified as heretical by the Supreme Council. My research has revealed the truth, Kira replied. The truth about what humanity was before you conquered us. The truth about what we're still capable of becoming. She held up the data core, its quantum crystalline structure glowing with inner light. This contains authentic Veltharian military records from the human Veltharian War. Records that prove humanity was never the primitive species you claimed to save. Varix felt his secondary heart skip their rhythm. Those records were supposed to have been destroyed centuries ago, purged from all databases to prevent exactly this scenario. Even if such records existed, he said carefully, they would be meaningless. Ancient history cannot change the present reality, can it? Kira's smile was sharp as a blade. I'm transmitting these files to every communication relay in the sector. Every human settlement, every mining station, every colonial outpost is about to learn that their ancestors fought you to a standstill. That humanity once commanded fleets that made yours look like pleasure craft. The transmission began immediately. Compressed data packets carrying 3 million years of suppressed history burst from the facility's communication array, riding subspace frequencies toward dozens of human-inhabited worlds. Weapons officer, Varix snapped. Destroy that transmission array. Now, the Dominion's Will's primary batteries opened fire, their particle beams lancing through space to vaporize the facility's communication equipment. But the damage was already done. The initial data bursts had reached the nearest relay stations, and the information was propagating through the galactic network at light speed. Sir, the tactical officer reported, we're detecting unusual activity on 17 human-populated worlds. Industrial output has ceased on mining stations throughout the sector. Colonial governors are reporting widespread civil unrest. Varix watched the tactical display with growing dread as red warning icons began appearing across the map. On Kepler 186F, human miners were attacking their Veltharian overseers with improvised weapons. On Proxima Centauri B, the entire planetary government had gone dark after declaring independence from the hegemony. On New Geneva, human engineers were somehow accessing restricted technical databases and downloading Starship construction blueprints. How? Are they accessing classified information? Varix demanded. Unknown, sir. It appears that exposure to the historical records is triggering some kind of genetic memory. Response. Human individuals are demonstrating knowledge of technologies they should not possess. The communication channel from the facility. Reopen. This time, it wasn't just Kira Voss speaking. A grizzled human male in military fatigue stood beside her, his augmented eye glowing with tactical data streams. Admiral, the man said, my name is Marcus Kane, former Commodore in your Navy. I've been reviewing these battle reports, and I have to say, I'm impressed. Your ancestors put up a hell of a fight against my people. Impossible, Varix hissed. Human military capabilities were eliminated during the pacification wars. Kane's laugh was cold as vacuum. Were they? Let me show you something interesting. The facility's remaining external cameras focused on the loading bays, where Kane's crew was working with impossible efficiency to prepare their small fleet for launch. But these weren't the same cargo haulers and mining vessels that had been docked there an hour ago. They were being transformed. Human engineers worked with the fluid expertise of genetic memory, their hands moving in patterns that conscious minds didn't understand, but their DNA remembered. Civilian plasma cutters were being reconfigured into ship-mounted weapons. Cargo containers were being converted into missile launchers. Most impossibly of all, the ships themselves were being modified. with faster-than-light drive systems that shouldn't have existed outside of classified Veltharian archives. The neural conditioning suppressed our memories, King continued, but it didn't erase our genetic predisposition for warfare. It just made us forget we had it. Thanks to Dr. Voss, we're starting to remember who we really are. Varrix's worst nightmare was unfolding before his eyes. For 3 millennia, the Veltharian Empire had maintained control through a simple principle: keep the humans ignorant of their true capabilities. But now that ignorance was being stripped away, layer by layer, revealing the apex predators that lay dormant beneath centuries of imposed docility. All ships, Varrix commanded, prepare for immediate orbital bombardment. Target the entire facility. Nothing must survive. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human vessels are launching. They're moving faster than our sensors can track. On the main display, 3 modified cargo ships burst from the facility's launch bays with acceleration curves that violated known physics. Their impromptu weapon systems were already charging, and their targeting systems were locking onto the Dominion's will with predatory precision. Shields up, Varrix ordered. All batteries, prepare to engage. The first human vessel, King's modified freighter Defiance, opened fire at a range that should have been impossible for its crude weapons. But the plasma beams that struck the battlecruiser's shields weren't crude. They were focused with mathematical precision, each shot carefully calculated to create harmonic resonance patterns in the shield generators. The Dominion's will shuddered as its shields collapsed under the unexpected assault. Damage reports flooded the bridge as the 2 remaining human ships joined the attack, their weapons tearing through armor plating that had been designed to withstand capital ship bombardment. How is this possible? Varrix demanded, his voice rising to a near shriek. They're using cargo haulers against a battlecruiser, sir, the tactical officer replied, his voice shaking. They're not fighting like humans. They're fighting like the old ones, the ones from the war stories, the ones who had once burned Veltharian fleets across 100 star systems, the ones who had taken the galaxy's most advanced military power and fought it to a bloody stalemate, the ones who had only been defeated through treachery and lies, the ones who were now waking up. Send a priority transmission to High Command, Varrix ordered. Tell them the pacification protocols have failed. The humans are remembering. On the main screen, Kira Voss's face appeared one final time, but her expression had changed. Gone was the nervous uncertainty of a civilian academic. In its place was something that made Varrix's carapace tremble with instinctive fear. This is just the beginning, she said. Every human in the galaxy is going to learn the truth. And when they do, they're going to remember what we were before you broke us. The transmission ended as the Defiance delivered a killing blow to the battle cruiser's primary reactor. The Dominion's will, pride of the Veltharian fleet, died in nuclear fire as humanity's children remembered how to hunt. High Command's war room on the Veltharian homeworld of Korth buzzed with controlled panic. Supreme Overlord Draxion stood before a holographic display showing the spreading chaos across 17 human-populated sectors. Each red indicator represented a world in rebellion, and the pattern was expanding exponentially. Casualty reports, Draxion commanded, his voice barely containing his rage. General Vorthix stepped forward, his mandibles clicking nervously. 7 battlecruisers destroyed in the past 6 hours. My lord, 14 patrol fleets have gone silent. Human vessels are appearing throughout the galaxy with weapon systems that match or exceed our own technological capabilities. That's impossible. The memory conditioning protocols were absolute, not absolute enough. It seems the voice belonged to Dr. Zelith, the Empire's chief xenobiologist. Her tone carried the weight of scientific certainty and personal dread. I've been analyzing the neural patterns of captured human rebels. The genetic memory pathways we believe we had severed are reasserting themselves. Worse, the process is accelerating with each exposure to the historical data. Draxion's primary eyes focused on the tactical display, where human ships were engaging Veltharian forces with impossible success rates. Explain. The human genome contains embedded strategic and tactical knowledge that operates independently of conscious memory. When the conditioning protocols are disrupted, this knowledge doesn't just return, it expresses itself with enhanced efficiency. They're not just remembering how to fight, my lord. They're remembering how to fight us. The implication struck the assembled commanders like a physical blow. For 3 millennia, the Veltharian Empire had maintained dominance through superior technology and strategic doctrine. But that technology and doctrine had been developed during the original war with humanity. If humans were adapting and improving upon their ancestral capabilities. Recommendation, Draxion said coldly. Immediate deployment of the pacification fleet, General Vorthik replied. Every available warship to human-occupied territories. We end this rebellion before it can spread further. And if that fails, the silence stretched uncomfortably before Dr. Zealous spoke, that we implement the Purge Protocol. Complete sterilization of all human-populated worlds. Draxion considered this. The Purge Protocol was the Empire's ultimate contingency. The systematic extermination of entire species deemed dangerous to control. It had been used only twice in Veltharian history, both times against civilizations that had posed existential threats to the Empire. Prepare the protocol, he decided, but first, we try conventional warfare. If humanity wants to remember how to fight, we'll remind them why they lost the first war. In the depths of space, the Defiance led a growing fleet of converted human vessels toward the Arcturus system. What had begun as 3 modified cargo ships had swollen to nearly 100 vessels, as human crews throughout the sector abandoned their posts. To join the rebellion, Kira stood on the bridge, watching the tactical displays with a mixture of awe and terror. The ships around them bore little resemblance to their original configurations. Human engineering crews had worked with impossible speed and intuition, transforming civilian craft into warships that would have been impressive even by the standards of their ancestors. How are they doing it? She asked Kane, who was coordinating the fleet's movements with the skill of someone who had commanded warships for decades instead of cargo haulers. Genetic memory, he replied. His augmented eye processing data streams faster than baseline human cognition should have allowed. My grandfather was a fleet admiral during the war. I never knew that the conditioning made sure of it, but his knowledge is in my DNA, and now that the blocks are gone, I can access it. The same phenomenon was occurring throughout the fleet. Engineers, who had never seen a starship's reactor core, were optimizing power distribution systems with expert precision. Gunners who had spent their lives moving cargo containers were calculating firing solutions with mathematical accuracy. Pilots who had only flown atmospheric shuttles were executing combat maneuvers that would have challenged veteran fighter aces. Contact, reported the communications officer, a young woman named Torres who had been a janitor on a mining station. 12 hours ago, Veltharian battle group approaching from the Rigel vector, 3 dreadnoughts, 7 cruisers, and escort screens. Kane studied the tactical display, his expression grim. They're not taking any chances this time. That's enough firepower to glass a planet. Can we fight them? Kira asked. We're about to find out. The Veltharian fleet dropped out of hyperspace. In perfect formation, their ships gleaming with predatory menace. At their head was the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, commanded by Admiral Cortex, a veteran of countless pacification campaigns, who had personally overseen the subjugation of 6 species, human vessels. Cortex's voice crackled across the communication channels. You will stand down immediately and submit to neural reconditioning. This is your final warning. Kane activated the fleet's response channel. Admiral, this is Commodore Kane of the Human Liberation Fleet. I respectfully decline your generous offer. However, I have a counter-proposal. Surrender your ships and we'll make sure you're treated according to the Galactic Conventions on Prisoners of War. Cortex's laugh was harsh and alien, amusing. 3 dreadnoughts against a handful of converted cargo haulers. Your ancestors at least had proper warships when they died. They also had something else, Kane replied. They had the truth. Now, so do we. The battle began with the Veltharian fleet's standard opening gamut, a concentrated barrage, designed to destroy the enemy's command structure and break their morale. Hundreds of plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes streaked across space toward the human formation, but the human ships weren't where the targeting computers expected them to be. The Defiance and her sister ships moved with fluid grace, their pilots executing evasive maneuvers that seemed to anticipate the enemy's firing patterns. The Veltharian weapons passed harmlessly through empty space, as the human fleet scattered into attack formations that their opponents recognized with growing horror. Pattern Delta 7, Admiral Cortex whispered, his voice tight with disbelief. They're using Pattern Delta 7. That formation has been classified for 2,000 years. The human ship struck back with coordinated precision. their improvised weapons targeting the exact points where Veltharian shields were weakest. The cruiser subjugator exploded in a ball of superheated plasma as its reactor core overloaded. The Discipline listed to starboard as her port engine array was vaporized by a perfectly placed shot from a converted mining vessel. Impossible, Cortex snarled. They're cargo haulers with mining lasers. They cannot. His words were cut off as the Eternal Dominion shuddered under a barrage from 6 human ships. Firing in perfect synchronization, the dreadnought shields collapsed under the assault, and its armor began to burn away under the focused plasma streams, sir, his tactical officer reported. They're targeting our weak points with surgical precision. They know exactly where to hit us. Of course they did. The same genetic memory that told them how to build weapons also told them how to use those weapons most effectively. Every Veltharian ship design flaw, every tactical doctrine weakness, every strategic vulnerability that their ancestors had discovered through blood and sacrifice. All of it was encoded in their DNA, waiting to be remembered. The battle raged for 3 hours. When it ended, the Veltharian fleet was scattered wreckage drifting through space. Only the Eternal Dominion remained intact, her engines dead and her weapons offline. Kane opened a communication channel to the crippled dreadnought. Admiral Cortex, you have 60 seconds to evacuate your crew before we finish you off. You think this changes anything? Cortex spat. You've destroyed one fleet. The Empire has thousands more. We will burn every human world to ash before we allow you to threaten our dominion again. Maybe, Kane acknowledged. But first, you're going to have to find us. And Admiral, we're not the frightened sheep you've been herding for 3,000 years. We're wolves, and we just remembered how to hunt. The Defiance fired a single shot into the Eternal Dominion's reactor core. The explosion lit up the darkness like a new star, a beacon that would be visible from a dozen worlds. On those worlds, millions of humans looked up at the sky and smiled. The rebellion had begun. The Kelverin Nebula had become humanity's crucible, a swirling maelstrom of ionized gas where the largest fleet battle in galactic history was about to unfold. 3 weeks after the destruction of Admiral Cortex's battle group, the Veltharian Empire had assembled the Grand Armada over 1,000 warships. Representing the combined might of 12 subject species, Supreme Admiral Threnix stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Galactic Dominion, watching the tactical displays with cold satisfaction. The human rebellion had spread to 4 to 7 worlds, but it ended here. The Grand Armada carried enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. Status report, he commanded. All fleet elements report ready, my lord, replied his tactical coordinator. The humans have assembled approximately 400 vessels in the nebula's core. Our intelligence suggests they're attempting to use the nebula's electromagnetic interference to mask their movements. Threnix's mandibles clicked with amusement. Clever, but ultimately futile. Deploy the fleet in subjugation pattern Omega. Well, we're finished. There won't be enough debris left to serve as a memorial in the nebula's heart. Kira Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship Remembrance, watching the Veltharian fleet take position like a slow-moving wall of death. The ship around her hummed with barely contained energy. What had once been a bulk freighter was now a hybrid of human innovation and recovered ancestral technology. They outnumber us 5 to 1, reported Captain Elena Vasquez, the former or hauler pilot who now commanded the human fleet's most advanced warship. And their ships are bigger, better armed, and better armored, but they're not better led, replied Kane from his position at the tactical station. And they're not fighting for the right reasons. Around them, the bridge crew worked with the fluid efficiency of genetic memory. Every human in the fleet had experienced the same phenomenon: the sudden, overwhelming return of ancestral knowledge that transformed ordinary civilians into expert warriors. But with that knowledge came something else, the weight of their species. True history, Dr. Voss called out Lieutenant Commander Sarachan, the fleet's intelligence officer. We're intercepting Veltharian communications. They're calling this Operation Final Solution. Kira felt her blood chill. The implications were clear. This wasn't just about stopping the rebellion, it was about ending humanity as a species. All ships, she announced on the fleet-wide channel. You've heard the intercepts. They're not planning to reconquer us. They're planning to exterminate us. Every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. This isn't just about our freedom anymore, it's about our survival. The response was immediate and primal. Across the human fleet, crews roared their defiance into the void. 3,000 years of suppressed anger, of forgotten pride, of murdered potential, all of it crystallized into a single, burning need for justice. Begin the dance, Keen whispered, using the ancient human term for fleet combat. The human ships moved like a living thing, spreading throughout the nebula in patterns that confused and disrupted Veltharian targeting systems. They used the ionized gas clouds as cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts, striking at the edges of the enemy formation before melting back into the electromagnetic chaos. The Veltharian response was overwhelming. Thousands of plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes turned the nebula into a constellation of death. But the humans had learned to use the environment to their advantage, their ships dancing through the chaos with impossible grace. The first major exchange claimed 30 human vessels, and twice as many Veltharian ships. The Freedom's Call, a converted colony transport, died, taking down the heavy cruiser Subjugation with a ramming attack that vaporized both ships in nuclear fire. The crew of the mining ship Defiant Spirit fought their vessel to destruction, their final transmission. A simple message: remember us. They're adapting too quickly, Admiral Threnix observed as his tactical displays showed the unthinkable human cargo haulers outmaneuvering purpose-built warships. Deploy the pacification drones. From the depths of the Grand Armada emerged a new horror: thousands of automated weapons platforms, each one equipped with advanced AI and enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The pacification drones had been designed specifically to hunt down and eliminate human resistance cells. Now they swarmed into the nebula like metallic locusts. New contacts, reported Chen. Automated weapons platforms, military-grade AI. They're designed to hunt us specifically. The drones move with mechanical precision, their targeting systems cutting through the nebula's interference with ease. The human advantage in maneuverability meant nothing against opponents that could calculate thousands of possible flight paths simultaneously. The cargo ship Pioneer's dream exploded under concentrated drone fire, its hull splitting like an overripe fruit. The escort destroyer Vengeance managed to take down 6 drones before a swarm of antimatter missiles reduced it to expanding plasma. In the space of 10 minutes, the human fleet lost 40 vessels. We can't fight them like this, Vasquez reported, her voice tight with controlled fear. They're too fast, too accurate. We need a new strategy. Kira closed her eyes, reaching deep into the genetic memories that had been awakened by the data core. Somewhere in the inherited knowledge of her ancestors was the answer, a way to turn the Veltharians' advantage against them. The drones, she said suddenly, they're networked. Every drone is connected to every other drone through quantum entanglement communications. If we could disrupt that network, we need to get close enough to plant a virus, Keen replied. And these aren't ordinary computers. Veltharian AI systems have security protocols that would take years to crack. Not if we had the original source code, Kira said. Pulling up files from the data core, the pacification drones were developed using human AI research stolen during the war. The base architecture is human design, modified with Veltharian improvements. She worked frantically, her enhanced neural implants processing data at superhuman speeds. The genetic memories provided context and understanding, allowing her to see patterns that would have taken conventional researchers decades to identify. There, she breathed, a backdoor in the original code. The human designers built in a failsafe that the Veltharians never discovered. Can you exploit it? Not from here. Someone would have to get within direct transmission range of the drone. Network's control node. That means getting within 5 kilometers of their command ship. Kane studied the tactical display, calculating odds and possibilities. The Galactic Dominion sat at the center of the Veltharian formation, protected by layers of escorts and defensive screens. Getting within 5 kilometers would be suicide. I'll do it, he said simply. Marcus, no. It's a one-way trip, maybe, but if I don't, we all die anyway. Kane turned to address the bridge crew. Prepare the Defiance for a final run. Transfer all non-essential personnel to other vessels. Sir, interrupted Torres from the communication station. We're receiving a transmission from the Veltharian flagship. Admiral Threnix wants to negotiate. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the Supreme Admiral's reptilian features. Human rebels, he said in accented standard. You have fought bravely, but the battle is decided. Surrender now, and I will ensure your deaths are quick. Counteroffer, Kane replied. Withdraw your forces from human space. Acknowledge our independence, and we'll let you live. Threnix's laugh was like breaking glass. Amusing. Perhaps I Should clarify our situation. My drones have eliminated 6 to 7 of your vessels in the past hour. At current rates, your entire fleet will be destroyed within 6 hours. Meanwhile, you have managed to damage perhaps 30 of my ships. We're just getting started. Kira interrupted, stepping into view with a camera. Admiral, I have a question. For you, do you know why your ancestors really went to war with humanity? To prevent your species from spreading its chaos throughout the galaxy. No, they went to war because they were terrified of what we might become. Your own records prove it. She activated the data core's holographic projector, filling the transmission with battle reports and strategic assessments. Every simulation, every war game, every strategic analysis reached the same conclusion. If humans were allowed to develop freely, they would eventually surpass Veltharian civilization in every measurable way. Threnix's eyes narrowed. Ancient history, is it? Your drones are impressive, Admiral, but they're based on stolen human technology. Your ships use human-designed FTL drives. Your weapons incorporate human plasma-focusing techniques. For 3,000 years, your entire technological advancement has been built on the foundation of what you took from US, and now you're about to lose it all, Kane added, because the students had become the teachers. The transmission ended as Kane began his final run. The Defiance accelerated toward the Veltharian formation, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. Around it, the human fleet launched a coordinated assault designed to draw attention away from the lone ship. Racing toward certain death, the sacrifice was extraordinary. The converted passenger liner Hope's Dawn rammed itself into a battle cruiser, both ships dying in a fusion fireball that could be seen from the edge of the system. The cargo hauler Freedom's Price fought off 12 drones before her reactor overloaded, taking down 6 more in the explosion. But their sacrifice bought Kane the time he needed. The Defiance punched through the defensive screen, her improvised armor ablating under concentrated fire. Kane felt the ship shudder as plasma beams carved through her hull, but he pressed on toward the Galactic Dominion. Upload complete, Kira reported as the virus transmitted to the drone network. The failsafe is activating. Throughout the battle zone, 5,000 pacification drones suddenly turned on their own fleet. The virus had convinced them that the Veltharian ships were the enemy, and they attacked with single-minded mechanical fury. The Grand Armada found itself fighting a war on the fronts as their own weapons turned against them. The Defiance died as she reached the Galactic Dominion. Kane's final act, a ramming attack that shattered the Super Dreadnought's command section. But his sacrifice had turned the tide. With their drones neutralized and their command structure in chaos, the Veltharian fleet began to fracture. All ships, Kira broadcast to the human fleet, this is our moment. For Kane, for our ancestors, for our children who will grow up free. The human fleet struck with the fury of 3,000 years of suppressed rage. They had lost over 100 ships, but they had remembered who they truly were. The Veltharians had created their own worst nightmare, humans who knew they could win. The Grand Armada broke and ran, leaving behind the wreckage of 400 warships and the bodies of countless crews. But the humans had paid a terrible price for their victory. Of the 400 ships that had entered the nebula, only 130 remained functional. As the survivors regrouped among the debris, Kira stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and watched the tactical displays update with reports from across the galaxy. The rebellion was spreading faster than ever, fueled by news of the victory at Kelverin. What now? Asked Vasquez. Kira looked at the data core that had started it all, then at the faces of the humans around her people who had rediscovered their heritage through blood and sacrifice. Now, she said, we go home. It's time to liberate Earth. The Sol system had become a fortress. For 3,000 years, Earth had served as the Veltharian Empire's greatest symbol of successful conquest, the homeworld of the galaxy's most dangerous species, pacified and turned into a monument to imperial dominance. Now, as the human Liberation fleet emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge, that symbol was about to be tested. Fleet Admiral Korvik stood on the bridge of the fortress station Eternal Vigil, watching the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. After the disaster at Kelverin, High Command had stripped ships from across the galaxy to defend Earth. 2,000 Veltharian warships formed defensive shells around the planet, while the surface bristled with orbital defense platforms that could crack moons. They brought everything they had, he observed as the human fleet took position near Jupiter's orbit. Intelligence reports indicated only 93 functional human vessels. each one a patchwork of civilian components and recovered military technology. Sir, reported his tactical officer, the humans are requesting a communication channel. Very well. Let's hear what the sheep have to say. The main screen activated, revealing Dr. Kira Voss aboard the human flagship. But the woman who appeared before them bore little resemblance to the nervous academic who had started this rebellion. Her eyes held the hard gleam of someone who had watched friends die for an ideal, and her voice carried the authority of genetic memory made manifest. Admiral Korvik, she said, I am Dr. Kira Voss. Speaking for the free humans of the galaxy, we have come to reclaim our birthright. Your birthright, Korvik replied with reptilian amusement, is servitude. Earth has been under imperial protection for 3 millennia. Its billions of inhabitants depend on us for their survival as slaves. Kira shot back, but that ends today. We're offering you one chance to withdraw peacefully. Leave the Sol system and never return. Korvak's laughter echoed through the bridge. 93 ships against 2,000. You're either insane or suicidal. Maybe both, admitted Captain Vasquez from beside Kira. But we're also desperate, and humans are most dangerous when they're desperate. The transmission ended, and Korvik immediately began deploying his fleet for what he expected to be the shortest battle in Imperial history. The human ships were outnumbered 20 to 1, and they were facing purpose-built warships instead of converted civilian vessels. But as the Eternal Vigil sensors analyzed the approaching human fleet, disturbing readings began to appear on the tactical displays. Sir, the sensor operator reported, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the human vessels. Their power output exceeds anything in our database. Korvik leaned forward, studying the readings with growing unease. Explain. It appears they've made significant modifications since Kelverin. These aren't the same ships that fought at the nebula. Indeed, the human fleet had been transformed during the weeks-long journey to Earth. Genetic memory had provided the knowledge. Salvaged Veltharian technology had provided the means, and desperation had provided the motivation. Each ship now carried weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The battle began at long range, with both fleets exchanging massive salvos across millions of kilometers of space. The Veltharian advantage in numbers told immediately human. Ships vanished in nuclear fire as overwhelming firepower focused on individual targets. But the humans had learned to make every shot count. The destroyer Retribution died under concentrated fire from 6 Veltharian cruisers, but not before her final torpedo salvo crippled the battlecruiser Imperial Might. The cargo hauler Last Hope was blown apart by plasma cannon batteries. Her crew's final active data transmission that provided targeting information for the rest of the fleet. They're using suicide tactics, observed the tactical officer as another human ship rammed itself into a Veltharian formation, taking down 3 vessels in a fusion explosion. Desperation. Korvik replied dismissively, they know they cannot win, so they spend their lives freely. But as the battle progressed, a disturbing pattern emerged. The human fleet was dying, but they were taking a disproportionate number of Veltharians with them. For every human ship destroyed, 3 or 4 Imperial vessels were eliminated or crippled. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're receiving reports from the surface. Something's happening on Earth. The orbital surveillance platforms revealed an impossible sight across the planet's surface. Human populations were rising in coordinated rebellion, but these weren't desperate civilians with improvised weapons. They were organized military forces with equipment that shouldn't have existed. In the ruins of ancient London, human resistance fighters emerged from hidden bunkers carrying plasma rifles and wearing powered armor. Above the former site of New York, atmospheric fighters launched from concealed hangars, their designs matching the most advanced Veltharian interceptors throughout Asia. Massive industrial complexes that had been camouflaged as civilian factories revealed their true nature as weapons manufacturing plants. Impossible, Korvik breathed. Where did they get military equipment? They didn't get it. Kira's voice interrupted as the communication channel reopened. They made it. 3,000 years ago, when your ancestors conquered Earth, they thought they destroyed all our military infrastructure. But humans are good at hiding things we value. The tactical display updated with new contacts, hundreds of small craft launching from Earth's surface, their signatures matching nothing in Veltharian databases. These weren't the crude atmospheric fighters that humans were supposed to possess. These were spacecraft armed and shielded according to principles that the Empire had banned for millennia. You see, Admiral, Kira continued, your predecessors made a fundamental error. They assumed that because they had defeated our fleets, they had eliminated our capability to resist. But while they were busy rewriting our history and conditioning, our minds, human engineers were busy hiding production facilities in places your people would never think to. Look, the Earth-launched fighters struck the Veltharian formation like a swarm of angry insects. Too small and numerous for capital ship weapons to track effectively. They tore through escort squadrons with vicious efficiency, their pilots guided by the same genetic memories that had awakened in humans throughout the galaxy. All surface defense platforms, commence orbital bombardment, Korvac ordered. Sterilize the launch sites, but as the massive weapons focused on Earth's surface, something extraordinary happened. The planet's magnetic field began to fluctuate, creating interference patterns that disrupted the targeting computers. Deep beneath the ocean floors, installations that had been hidden for 3 millennia began to activate. Sir, the sensor operator reported, his voice tight with disbelief. I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the planet's crust. It appears the humans have some kind of planetary defense system. The first beam lanced up from the Pacific ocean floor, a column of coherent energy that punched through the defense platform orbital dominion like tissue paper. More beams followed from hidden installations across the globe, each one precisely targeted at Veltharian positions. How long? Korvac demanded. How long have they been planning this? Since the day you conquered us, Kira replied. Every generation of humans has added to the hidden infrastructure, guided by genetic memories that your conditioning couldn't completely suppress. We've been preparing for this moment for 3,000 years. The battle reached its climax as the Earth-based defenses coordinated with the Liberation Fleet for a final assault. Human ships that had seemed on the verge of destruction suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems, their hulls opening like flowers of death to unleash firepower that had been carefully hoarded for this moment. The Remembrance herself transformed before Korvac's horrified eyes, her cargo sections retracting to reveal the sleek lines of a warship that belonged in the nightmares of Veltharian military academies. This wasn't a converted freighter. It was a purpose-built dreadnought, camouflaged and hidden until the moment of truth. Impossible, Korvac whispered as his fleet began to collapse around him. Your civilians, historians and miners and cargo haulers, we're whatever we need to be. Kira replied, that's what makes us human. The eternal vigil shuddered as the station shields failed under coordinated fire from 6 human dreadnoughts that had shed their civilian disguises. Korvac watched his command center burn around him, the dream of eternal Veltharian dominance dying in nuclear fire. All ships, he transmitted on the fleet frequency, withdraw to the outer system. Prepare for hyperspace jump. But the human fleet had anticipated this. Gravity mines deployed throughout the system created interdiction fields that prevented faster-than-light travel. The Veltharian survivors found themselves trapped in system with an enemy that had spent millennia preparing for exactly this scenario. Admiral, Kira's voice crackled through the static of battle. You have one opportunity to surrender. Your choice. Korvac looked at the tactical displays showing the wreckage of his once mighty fleet, then at the planet below where billions of humans were celebrating their liberation. The nightmare that had haunted Veltharian civilization for 3,000 years had finally come to pass. Humanity was free, and they remembered how to fight. 1 year after the liberation of Earth, Dr. Kira Voss stood in the ruins of the former Veltharian administrative complex in Geneva, watching human engineers dismantle the last of the neural conditioning equipment. The machines that had kept her species docile for 3 millennia were being broken down, their components recycled into medical equipment and educational tools. Final report from the outer territories, announced Captain Vasquez, now bearing the rank of Admiral in the newly formed Human Defense Coalition. The last Veltharian stronghold at Kepler 440 has surrendered. Their garrison commander is requesting terms. Kira nodded, her attention focused on the quantum data core that had started it all. The crystalline artifact sat in a place of honor on her desk, its inner light dim now that its secrets had been revealed to the galaxy. Such a small thing to have brought down an empire that had ruled for 12,000 years. What terms are they offering? She asked. Complete withdrawal from human space, formal recognition of our independence, and reparations for 3,000 years of occupation. Vasquez paused, her expression thoughtful. They're also requesting protection. Protection? From whom? From the other species they conquered. Word of our victory has spread throughout the galaxy, and apparently we've inspired some copycats. The Altarian Republic has declared independence from the Empire. So have the Centauri Federation and the Vegan Collective. The Veltharian Empire is collapsing, sector by sector. Kira walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva, where human children played in parks that had once been restricted to Veltharian administrators. In the distance, construction crews were building new cities according to architectural principles that had been suppressed for millennia. Humanity was remembering not just how to fight, but how to live. They're afraid, she said finally. The Veltharians are afraid that what we did to them, the other species will do as well. Are they right to be afraid? Kira considered this. The genetic memories that had been awakened by the data core had revealed more than just military knowledge. They had shown her a vision of what humanity had been before the conquest of species defined not just by their capacity for violence, but by their ability to adapt, to learn, and to transcend their own limitations. Not from us, she decided. We've learned something the Veltharians never understood. True strength doesn't come from dominating others. It comes from lifting them up. The door to her office opened, admitting a figure she hadn't seen in months. Fleet Admiral Marcus Kane entered, his cybernetic implants gleaming in the afternoon light. The man who had sacrificed himself at Kelverin had somehow survived, pulled from the wreckage of the Defiance by a rescue crew who had refused to believe he was dead. Marcus, she said warmly, how are the new recruits? Eager? He replied with a grin. Maybe too eager. The kids who are signing up for the Defense Coalition grew up hearing stories about the liberation. War. They think war is glorious, and you're disabusing them of that notion as fast as I can. War is ugly, brutal, and should always be the last resort. But sometimes, he gestured to the window, where human children played freely under open skies. Sometimes it's necessary. A soft chime announced another visitor. Dr. Yuki Tanaka entered, carrying a data pad with the latest reports from the xenoarchaeology teams. In the years since the war's end, human researchers had been uncovering the true history of dozens of species, revealing the systematic lies and cultural manipulations that had kept the Veltharian Empire in power. The Regelian delegation has arrived, she reported. They're requesting access to their suppressed historical records. Approved. Kira said immediately, make sure they get everything we have, and send copies to the other liberation movements as well. She turned back to the window, watching a group of former Veltharian civilians working alongside humans to rebuild the city's infrastructure. Not all of the Empire's citizens had supported the oppression of other species. Many had been as much victims of their government's policies as the conquered peoples themselves. There's something else, Kane said quietly. Intelligence reports suggest that there are still Veltharian holdouts in the Outer Rim, hardliners who refuse to accept the new reality. They're calling themselves the Restoration Movement, and they're gathering ships and personnel for some kind of counterstrike. Kira felt a familiar chill. The war might be over, but the peace was fragile. There would always be those who preferred the old ways, who saw freedom as chaos and equality as weakness. How many ships? She asked. Unknown. But our sources suggest they're planning something big, maybe an attack on Earth itself. She looked at the data core again, remembering the moment when she had first glimpsed the truth hidden within its quantum structure. The revelation had cost so much thousands of lives, hundreds of ships, an entire way of life. But it had also given her species something infinitely more valuable. It had given them back themselves. Then we'll be ready for them, she said with quiet certainty. We've remembered who we are, Marcus. We're not the frightened sheep they tried to make us. We're not the monsters they claimed we were. We're humans, and that means we adapt, we overcome, and we never give up. Kane nodded, understanding passing. Between them, the generation that had won the Liberation War would not live to see the end of the struggles ahead. But they had done something more important than winning a single conflict. They had broken the chains of genetic conditioning and cultural programming that had bound their species for 3 millennia. They had remembered the truth. As the sun set over Lake Geneva, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Kira allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The data core on her desk pulsed with gentle light, its secrets now shared with the galaxy. The truth had indeed ended the Galactic Dynasty, just as the title of her historical study had predicted. But more than that, it had given birth to something new, a galaxy where species could determine their own destinies. where strength was measured not by the ability to dominate others, but by the courage to stand for what was right. In the distance, the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Each point of light represented a world where beings could now choose their own path, free from the lies and manipulations of would-be overlords. Dr. Kira Voss had been just a historian, seeking truth in the fragments of the past. But truth, once revealed, had a power all its own. It could topple empires and free nations. It could awaken sleeping giants and transform conquered peoples into liberators. And sometimes, when the truth was powerful enough, it could change the galaxy forever. The Veltharian Empire was dead. In its place, a new age was dawning, an age where the motto of the Human Defense Coalition would echo throughout the stars. Remember who you are. The galaxy had remembered, and it would never forget. Again.